Hello, this is Heather Hoffman, and I have a super fun, simple card to share with you. Be great for making fall thank you cards or anything like that. I'm using the adorable little stamp set called Falling Heart from Unity Stamp Company. You can see it's brand new and I still have to peel the backing off. I'm stamping it onto watercolor cardstock, and I'm using my Misty because that works really well with the texture of watercolor cardstock. And I had to make sure there that my leaves were lined up so that the hearts were facing up and not down. Upside down hearts are never fun. And I lined up the sentiment there to make sure it was straight. I used the grid on the Misty to make sure that it's not crooked or anything. And I'm using a VersaFine Onyx ink. It's a pigment ink, which will work really well with watercoloring, and it won't smear or smudge with the watercolors. I went ahead and stamped it twice. I actually ended up with a really good impression the first time, but I wanted it just nice and dark to work really well with the watercolors. Now I'm using some glossy accents real quick, and I have a fine tip applicator, and somehow I got a little blue in there. I always squeeze a little out before I start, but I'm going to place that just on the hearts on the leaves, and then I'm going to set it aside to dry. And what this is going to allow me to do is use that as a resist, so when I watercolor over the top, those hearts are going to be able to remain white, which will kind of make them pop a little bit under the watercolor. Now I'm doing my watercolor in stripes. I have a flat brush that I'm using, and I'm getting it wet with a little bit of water. I'm using my Daniel Smith watercolors. Any watercolors will work fine for this, but I'm making sure I'm having it inked, and I went ahead and did a stripe over the first leaf, the second one down, and then I went ahead and skipped a leaf and did a stripe on the one at the very bottom. And the reason I did this is I wanted to dry the colors between before I added the next color so that they would overlap but they wouldn't bleed and run together. So once I have that on there, I'm going to go ahead and pull out my heat gun real quick, and I'm going to dry those slightly. And you notice as I went across that the right hand side kind of ended up not as straight and with a little bit of a texture on it. So as I add the other stripes in between, I decided to turn it upside down to kind of balance that out so that the rougher edges would be on the other side. As it turned out, I don't know if I just did a smoother job or quite what happened, but ended up kind of coming out smooth and not crooked like I expected it to. So I could have just done it the other way and it would have worked just fine. And when I noticed that, I kind of came back and tried to add a little more paint on the sides to make it work, and it still just kind of came out smooth. So I think my technique had just kind of improved a little bit somehow on there. So, but either way, I think it still came out looking kind of pretty the way it worked anyway. So now that I have that second one on there, I looked at it and it just looked a little bit too plain, so I decided to grab a smaller brush and add some splatters with the leftover color of the same colors. So I'm just dipping my brush in, making sure it's wet enough and I have enough of that color, and doing that with each of those 4 colors just to add a little bit more of a whimsical feel to it, and it kind of pulls those colors out to the edges of that card and makes it a little less white and stark. And I love doing this, and even a little bit landing on those stripes that are in the middle. It's just going to kind of blend out and add to the texture of the card. Now you might notice at this point you can't really see those hearts popping out yet. As soon as I finish adding these splatters, I'm going to grab my damp baby cloth, just a baby wipe, and find a clean little corner of it and just quickly dab the color off the hearts. See how they pop back out? Normally I'd wait till that dried all the way before I tried to do that, but I wanted to get it in the video so you could see. There you go, a super fun effect and an easy way to keep those hearts white with just a simple resist. Thanks so much for coming by. Have a wonderful day.